Hi, I'm James Tracey. I'm hopefully going to explain a little bit more about my style, my approach and how I work on a wedding day. But before I start, I'll just go a little bit about me. I started covering weddings, photographing weddings back in 2012. It's the same year I got married myself. And then I started filming weddings in 2018. I've done over 500 weddings, all different types, from intimate elopements through to sort of destination weddings abroad. I've got plenty of experience of pretty much anything and everything that can happen on a wedding day. I've managed to win a couple of awards along the way. I've judged a couple of awards now. So I like to think I do know a little bit about what I'm doing when it comes to weddings, and hopefully I'll be able to guide you through and explain sort of more how I approach things and what I'm looking for. And hopefully then you'll be able to figure out whether or not this sounds like the right type of wedding film for yourself. So starting with my style and approach, right back to when I was a photographer and all the way through now as a videographer, I've always believed that I should be hands-off, unobtrusive, in the background, and my job is there to capture the real emotion, the real tension, excitement, happiness, all the good stuff that comes out of a wedding. And I'm never really one for setting things up, interfering, moving things around, trying to make things kind of look perfect. That's never been my style, that's never been my approach. And I've always found that by being quite hands-off and letting the day flow as it does, you get much better, much more real moments. Like the emotion is more genuine and the happiness, all the things that I'm looking for in the film, it just flows. And I always find that if you start interfering, and if I started to come in and set things up and ask you to stand in a certain place or move here or do a certain thing, it starts to add a lot of pressure onto a day that there's probably already quite a lot of pressure involved. You've spent a long time planning, you've probably spent a lot of money planning. The last thing you want to do on the day is have somebody telling you what to do and making you do things you're not comfortable with. So my approach has always been the same. Observe, document, create the film, and try and make something that reflects you and who you are and the day you had, rather than me coming in with my idea of what your day should look like and then trying to create a film that I need you to do certain things at certain times for that film. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Some people will work in that style, but just for me to get the type of films that I like to make, I don't want to interfere. I don't want to set things up. As the level of interference you'll get from me is a guide sheet before the wedding, just saying, here's a couple of tips that might help on the day. And they're pretty basic things like have a little tidy up of the room before the photographer and videographer come, try and have your makeup done near a big window for the natural light. And my pet here is big lights in the middle. I do try and knock them off because that creates a lot more interesting light. But if I turn up and all those things are happening, I'm not going to run around demanding that they all get changed. That's your day, that's how we'll film it. So my style has always been the same, natural and unobtrusive. Unstaged moments, it leads to real emotion, real happiness, all the stuff then that when you watch your film back is going to feel genuine. You're going to remember how you felt at that time, and you're also going to see how other people reacted and how other people felt, which is exactly what, in my opinion, what a wedding film is all about. You're going to want to watch this in 10 years. You might have a family. You're all going to sit back and be able to see who you really were at that time and how much that day meant to you, and having all those important people around you. The way I approach that is really simple, as I've briefly covered. I just don't get involved in setting things up and telling you to do stuff. Obviously, when I first arrive in the morning, I'm not just going to quietly walk in and walk around with a camera and start pointing at people, because people do need to get used to myself. I'm probably the photographer a little bit, but I'm not going to come in and be taking over and making it all about myself or anything like that. It'll just be a polite, quiet introduction, and we'll just slowly start working into the morning, making sure that you are comfortable having the camera around you. I don't work with big kit and equipment. One of the biggest things that I think helps me fit in is I use pretty small cameras. They are fundamentally exactly the same as what photographers use. In fact, here's one of the cameras I use here. That's the size of it. It's the exact same as a photographer's camera. I tend to shoot 90% of the day handheld. So you're not going to have like big tripods and sticks and booms and microphones and all the attachments and stuff come out of it. I often get mistaken for the photographer, if I'm honest, especially in the drink reception. People come over and ask us for a photograph because, you know, that looks like a photographer's camera. So that, I think, really helps. People don't feel like they're being filmed. They don't feel like they're on show. And I often find that when people do feel like that, they sort of perform a little different. And then they start looking down the camera lens as well, which when we're doing a documentary style film, kind of just want things to happen in front of us. So I do try and keep things small and unobtrusive. So your guests, yourself, you all feel comfortable in front of the camera. That's the main thing from my perspective. My style's heavily influenced by film and TV. So a lot of the cinematic techniques that you've seen in big budget TV and in films, I try and apply some of those principles into the films. It's nothing big, it's nothing that's going to get in the way of your day. It's more how I film and how I edit. But I like to think there's some of the things that make a bit of a difference when you're watching the films. That you hear the word cinematic mentioned a lot. For me, it's sometimes using these little techniques, following some of the rules that TV and film uses. These are the things that help make a film seem more cinematic. I think sometimes cinematic people refer to it as using slow motion, but for me, slow motion is a tool to use only in a specific moment. I don't use an awful lot of it in my films. I think it is a little bit overused in the industry. So I try and only use it when there's like a story reason for it. Most of my stuff will be shot and shot at like the speed it happened in real life, because I like to use the ambient audio as well, like what people were saying. And so you can not just see your day, but you hear it as well. So when you're watching the film, it not only looks, but it sounds like your day, because I'm using the audio from your day as well. And then when I blend in these little cinematic techniques, it just adds to the edit. So when you're watching it, it does feel a little bit more like a film. Like I said, they're pretty subtle, but it's a big part of what I try and do, and hopefully what separates me from some of the other videographers that are out there. How a wedding day works from my perspective is I like to try and start at prep. So I'll try and get across both parties at prep, if that can be done. Sometimes you're in different locations, and if that's going to involve a little bit of driving around, then maybe we have to compromise, and I can only come and shoot, say, the bride and bridal prep. And then I'll catch, if it's a bride and groom, I'll catch the groom then at the wedding venue just before we go into the ceremony. But if you're both in the same place and you're both getting ready, quite close together, I can make that work. And I like that, because you're going to get, you're both obviously putting things on, tying things up, all the kind of doing similar things, which gives me lots of cross-cutting opportunities in the edit. And obviously during prep, there's good energy. You can have funny moments can happen, heartfelt moments can happen, like lots of nice things can happen during prep, and it's nice to capture all that. I like to try and create a bit of excitement and a bit of build-up in my wedding films. So I'll often say that I use this analogy a lot, that wedding films are a bit like Titanic. You go in to watch the film knowing what's going to happen. So in Titanic, obviously the ship sinks. At wedding films, a couple gets married. If we can create a bit of story before that, where there's a bit of intrigue and a bit of excitement, a bit of build up to the main event, that to me, that's quite exciting. And I use prep a lot for that. Because there is all the parts are there. There's excitement, nerves, there's a bit of tension, there's often time, you're up against time sometimes. So you've got these things that create a little bit of a story that then lead up to the actual event if you're getting married. So I do enjoy shooting prep. It's nice just to get all the different emotions that come. There's often, like I say, a lot of happiness, and there's often like a lot of nerves. Sometimes, there's emotion with family members and stuff like that. So all that I really enjoy filming. And if I can get both sides, that's even better. if you're getting ready at the venue, I'll get all my cameras and everything set up at some point prior to the ceremony. If you're getting ready somewhere else and we're then moving on to your venue, or you're getting married at a church, then I'll probably need to leave a little bit earlier to make sure I've got enough time to get to the venue, get my kit in there, get everything set up, make sure that if it's like for a church, get the ground rules, understand where you can and can't go. The ceremony is one of 2 parts of the day where I'll use microphone and additional cameras. So I'll have a couple of tripods with a couple of extra cameras. They'll be out of the way. They're the same small cameras that I use to film. And the microphones are pretty much like this one here that I've got on. They're small microphones. I only mic up as the least amount of people that I have to. So the registrar or the vicar priest, reverend minister, I'll mic them up if they allow us. If it's a bride and groom that are getting married, I'll mic the groom up. The bride stands close enough so we don't need to use a microphone on both of you. Any readers, I will pop a microphone either on them or on their reading. A little tip I'll give is if you are doing readings, if you can get people to print off the reading and mount it on a bit of cards, nice bit of card. I can clip the audio recorder to that, but it also looks a little bit better and you don't get the rustling from paper and stuff like that you can get when people sometimes use bits of paper. So it looks better and it sounds a little bit better. I'll mic, if it's a church ceremony, often people read from a lectern, so I'll just mic the lectern up, I won't mic individuals up. When it comes to the ceremony then, obviously hands off, like the rest of it, multi-camera, so we'll have a camera on each party, and then I'll have a third camera, which is usually with me, just to react for any guest reactions, or if we have a reader come up and stand in a position, I can film them. Or if, you know, a camera gets compromised, I can cover that off by filming myself. Once the ceremony's over, I'll remove the audio equipment, so you're not going to be walking around wearing that all day long. You'll sign the paperwork and do all the stuff that you need to do, and then it's into confetti. Hopefully you're allowed to do it and hopefully the weather's on board. A top tip I'll give you for confetti is get the biggest biodegradable confetti you can get. As in like the size of the confetti. That small little tiny sort of floral confetti, you can't really see it. So if your venue says you've got to have natural confetti, try and get petals like the bigger ones because they look better on camera. If you're allowed to use biodegradable stuff, and there's tons of it available now, coloured, white, however you prefer, get the big stuff. It just looks so good on camera for both photo and video. So another little tip there on getting your confetti. That's a cool moment. That's one of those like big sort of explosive moments that that looks great on camera. Into your drinks reception at that point, if you have time and if the weather's on our side, I always recommend having 15-20 minutes where you just go and see people and greet people. This is like, everyone's dead excited at this point because they've not had a chance to speak to you. You've just got married. They all want to come and hug you and say nice things. This is a great photo and video moment. You get lots of interactions, lots of smiles, lots of like genuine joy, all the stuff that makes for a great film and for great photos. So if you have that opportunity to have 10, 15, 20 minutes just after your ceremony, take it. Sometimes the weather's not going to be on board. Sometimes the timing of the day isn't going to be on board and you might have to do group shots and couple stuff first. But if things are playing, if they're going to plan, that's the best way because you get really nice stuff. Because sometimes then if you come back, people have kind of like spread out across the venue and some people might have sat down and stuff like that. So you don't get the same sort of reaction, and it definitely makes for better footage and better photos. But the rest of the drinks reception, I'm just going to film people enjoying themselves, interacting, having fun, doing all the nice things that happen through the drinks reception, focusing on, just your guests and the people that matter to you. Your photographer might take you over some group shots. I will come and film those because, again, it's important people, grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, bridal party. It's nice to know that I'm definitely getting people who matter to you into the film. And often nice things are said. Sometimes funny things are said, moments happen in between those groups, so it's the bits in between that I'm looking for. But again, I'm not going to get in the way of your photographer because they need to get through that section, because obviously the groups can take a little bit of time and involve a little bit of organisation, so I don't want to make that any more challenging than it can be. The same kind of happens, same thing for the couple stuff. I don't need that desperately. It's not a huge part of the films. I much prefer to focus on like the energy, the excitement, the fun. But I will come along and film a couple stuff because, you know, we might get amazing light or we could be in an amazing location. And it is nice to get a little bit of just you guys on your own, but I know that's a big thing for the photographers. I'm not going to come along and demand we do things my way. I'm not going to take you away separately. My priority is always that you spend the most amount of time with your friends and family. So I'll just film off the back of what they're doing. The worst case, I might ask you to do something again, just so I can capture it for the camera either on a second angle or just get it slightly differently. But I'm not going to be coming along like taking over or demanding more time than what your photographer needs from you. One thing, of course, that is included is drone coverage. I am a licensed drone pilot. As long as the weather and there are no venue restrictions in place, I'll be able to pop the drone up and we'll get some brilliant aerial footage, and that is included in all the packages that I offer. Once the drinks reception is complete, you're going to move into the wedding breakfast and the speeches. From my point of view, I don't have any strong feelings about whether the speeches are before or after the ceremony. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference from my side. I would strongly recommend that you don't have them in between each course. I could explain in great detail why this tends to make the day start to run behind and run longer. Basically boils down to each time you're resetting for another set of speeches, although it's one speech, and the champagne gets topped back up again, people go to the bathroom, people go to the toilet. That 10-15, it does seem to take 10-15 minutes each time. And of course, if you do that 3 times, you've added 45 minutes onto the speeches, which will push the rest of the day behind. And sometimes you can rush that third speech. This has happened in the past. And then you'll end up with people still walking across cameras or people still eating because they haven't cleared food away, and that sort of compromises the audio. It does also help the chefs if the speech is before or after, so they at least can time all the food at the same time. But really, from a video perspective, we can't kind of repair some of the stuff that can happen to the audio or the footage. So I do suggest keep the speeches together in one block and do them at one point during the wedding breakfast. That is another part of the day that we'll use multiple cameras. If there's a house mic, I'll mic the house mic. If there isn't, I'll pop an audio recorder on everybody who's speaking. One camera on the person speaking, one camera on the top table or the main table, and then a wide of the entire room, just in case somebody gets up and does something unexpected, or we can get the cheers and all the other kind of reactions that we get. One of my favourite moments is when you're introduced into the room. It's one of the parts of the day that I'll use a large piece of equipment. It's called a gimbal. A camera sits on, it's basically like a stick that stabilizes the camera, and it means that I can walk and follow around and still get smooth footage. And that's the point where you'll walk into the room and I shoot on a wide angle then to get like all the energy, the cheers, all that excitement. It's a cool shot. I love doing it. It's a real high in the film, and it's one of the parts of the day that I really, really enjoy filming. It always looks great in the film. Once your speeches are done, if we get a golden hour with some amazing sunlight, we might steal you and do a couple stuff. Some of your evening guests will be arriving. I might back up some of the footage I've got. During the meal, I often back everything I've got up onto a laptop that I'll bring with me. So I'll back all the audio I've got to that point, all the video footage, so I've got multiple versions of it. In the evening, whilst things are getting turned around and ready for the evening celebrations, I might just complete doing that, but if we've got great light, we'll run out and grab some bits there. Then we'll go into the evening reception. If your first dance is choreographed dance, I'll set a couple of cameras up. We'll make sure we get all of that. If, like me, the idea of that isn't for you, I did 30 seconds and got everybody on the dance floor. Again, that works just as well. Get everybody up there. You'll feel like a bit more relaxed once you're not on show so much. Try and stay on the dance floor for 2 or 3 songs. Once the bride and groom or the couple leave the dance floor, that sort of is a green light for everybody else to do the same. And to get the dancing footage that I like to get at the end to really like end the film on a high, it's cool to just keep you guys on there for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll get enough footage to make sure that we get like really cool party stuff at the end. Once that's done, that's kind of me. I'll go away, I'll get everything backed up. It all goes onto 3 hard drives and off-site cloud storage. So there's 5 versions of your wedding by about 2 a.m. the following day. And that, you know, at least if something happens to any of the hard drives or the original cards, there's still a version that's off-site as well. So it's all protected. The edit is where the magic happens. That's where it takes time. I don't want to rush it. I want to make the best film I can do for you guys. And that does take a little bit of time, but it'll be well worth it. And I will keep you up to date as to when the film will be delivered. Music, I use licensed music through a company called MusicBed. They have composers and artists who work in TV and film. When they're not working on TV and film, they write for MusicBed. MusicBed is a licensing site that people like myself, wedding videographers, and advertising agencies and other companies use to get licensed music for their projects. I will make sure the score of your film sounds like the music you are having on the day, and I will make sure it's all legal and licensed. Those artists that get used in your film do get paid. That's all a licensing fee that I pay you. It's all included in the charges, in the fees that I charge. So, you know, you're not going to pay extra for that, but you know that if you want to share any of your films online, you can, because the footage, the music is all licensed and legal. And once the edit is complete, it will be delivered on a private gallery that's hosted online but isn't searchable. So you'll get a link, you can share that with whoever you want, you can download your films from it, you can watch them on a phone, a tablet, computer, TV. It's got an app that will install on most TVs as well. And it's dead easy to use and view and to download from. And it looks great, and it's a really easy way to access your films. That's hosted for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, the company that I use will offer you the opportunity to buy some extended hosting. It's not a huge amount of money. We're probably talking $10, $20 because it's a US company. So don't worry about that. But I also keep copies of your films. So if anything does happen or you need to access them in a different way, give us a shout and I'll send you them over, whichever way is most accessible for yourself. Injury, illness or incapacity. Obviously, sometimes things happen. People, you know, can fall sick or things can happen in life. I'm part of a network of wedding videographers. We all cover each other's backs. We all know each other's diaries. If one of us can't shoot, one of the other guys will come and shoot for us. That footage will then come back to me and I will still edit the film. We know that you've spent a long time planning and there's a lot of effort gone into it, and it's the one time that you're going to get married. So we're not going to let you down. We're going to have a network that's there to protect and make sure that we get you covered. It's really important that we've considered this. Hopefully we never need to use it, but that system is there and it is in place should something happen. And it's just, you know, it's part of being professional and delivering a professional service. And the final part, payment. So I take a 25% deposit. That secures the date. Unfortunately, I can't hold a date without a deposit. Once you've sent that over, I'll issue a PDF receipt. Everything's done online. It's an online contract, online bank details, online payment. 30 days before your wedding for the final balance. And once that's all booked in, the date is yours. Now, you might have further questions. There might be things that I've not quite covered in as much depth as you would like. There is a link to Calendly to book an online Zoom or telephone call. You'll find that in the email that I sent to you when you initially inquired. If you just want to chat more about weddings, get some advice about your day, or just go into some of the further details about my approach or what I'm looking for, how I work during the day, just book a call on there. We can just have a chat. And there's no hard sales or anything like that. It's just so I can help you understand a little bit more about how I work and the approach that I take. If you'd like to secure the date, drop me an email. I'll send over the booking details. It's as easy as I made it sound earlier. Hopefully there's been some things in this video that have been useful for you. Hopefully you can have a bit of a better understanding about how I approach the day and how it works. And I look forward to hearing from you soon.